Today's lesson is Chapter 4 and Lesson 9, Qualitative Graphs. What will we learn today? 2. Analyze qualitative graphs and sketch qualitative graphs. Our vocabulary word for this lesson is qualitative graphs. Graphs used to represent situations that may not have numerical values or graphs in which numerical values are not included. So analyzing a qualitative graph. So here's an example of a qualitative graph. You still have your labels. So the axes are both labeled. In this case, percent downloaded. Over here, time in seconds. And you can still see a relationship between the time and the percent of photos downloaded. So something's going on in this graph, and we can tell what's going on in the graph based on our labels. So notice there's no numbers. So example number 1, the graph at the right displays the water level in a bathtub. Describe the change in the water level over time. So we can see at the beginning, the water level in the bathtub is 0. Okay, right there, that's always going to be 0. The water level increases at a constant rate. Then the water is turned off, and we can assume the water is turned off, and the water level does not change. So when you turn off the water level doesn't change, it stays the same. So no change on the water level. Finally, the drain plug is pulled and the water level decreases at a constant rate until the water level is 0 again. Now we're going to sketch qualitative graphs. Qualitative graphs represent the essential elements of a situation in a graphical form. You can sketch qualitative graphs to represent many real-world functions that are described verbally. So example number 2, a tennis ball is dropped onto the floor. On each successive bounce, it rebounds to a height less than its previous bounce height until it comes to rest on the floor. Sketch a qualitative graph to represent the situation. So sketch means to draw. So we're going to draw a qualitative graph to represent the situation. You don't need to know what the height was. You don't need to know how long it takes for the ball to rest. You're just going to draw a graph. And you're going to draw the axes. You're going to label the vertical axis distance from the floor. And you're going to label the horizontal axis time. So the distance from the floor, we know is going to be up. Time is going to be going across. That's the first step. Step 2, sketch the shape of the graph. The distance from the floor starts out at a high value. So it's starting up here because obviously you're going to be standing high to drop the ball. The ball falls to the ground or to the floor. And as you know, tennis balls bounce, and it's going to be bouncing and rebounds to the height less than the drop, and it continues going for several times until it finally rests on the floor. You can continue going with smaller loops, but you get the point there. Eventually that ball is going to stop rolling. Our third example is as follows. A child swings on a swing. Sketch a qualitative graph to represent the situation. So before we can draw this qualitative graph, you have to think of the situation. A child swinging on a swing. So the first step, we're going to draw axes. We're going to think of there's a distance from the ground that the child is swinging. And there's a horizontal axis for time elapsed. So imagine a kid that's swinging. They start off, from the ground, they go up, come back down, go up, come back down, and over a certain amount of time. So our graph would look something like this. You sketch the shape of the graph, the distance from the swing. So again, we're distance from the ground. So we're not on the ground. Then when you swing, you go up, come back down, up. Notice it's never touching the ground. It just continues. Sometimes you might go higher. I can continue this, go smaller, I can continue this as long as I want, but the distance from the ground is not actually ever going to hit this axis because the swing never touches the ground. So now it's your turn to draw a qualitative graph on a small piece of paper. Be sure to label the axis. Choose one part of your graph and write a brief description of what it represents. You can look at the 3 examples that we had in this video and go from there. Good luck.